Good morning, nerds, and welcome back to the fourth episode of the Salvage Union Let's Play Something New series. Where this episode I'm going over core gameplay for a brand new player so that they at least understand how to play Salvage Union when they first sit down at the table, just kind of at a basic level. Now, ultimately, these guides are meant to um, either be used as a player who's going to be playing Salvage Union for the very first time, or be used for a game mediator who is looking to kind of uh, have some sort of guide that they can pass to their players before starting a new campaign or a new session like this. And so I'm trying to just strip down Salvage Union to its bare nuts and bolts, so you can kind of easily understand the situation and kind of just get going rather than having to read the entire book and feel like you have to know everything. That's a game mediator's job. But nonetheless, first episode we did pilot creation. Second episode we did mech creation. Third episode we did union crawler creation, which means that the fourth episode here is core gameplay. Now, I've in the fashion of Salvage Union, I've split a couple of core mechanics into a series of if-then statements. Which, if you are not familiar with any sort of coding language, ultimately, an if-then statement is pretty much if is exactly as it sounds. If something happens, then something else happens, and you'll see kind of when we get into the first step here. So, when it comes to salvage union, what can you do on your turn? A player can move and take an action on their turn. Now, of course, this isn't really a then if then statement here, but you'll see them as they come. So ultimately, we'll first start with movement. Movement can be done before or after the action here, and so we can definitely get into it here. On the turn, a mech pilot vehicle or creature can move one range band. And what are these range bands? They're going to be close range. Ultimately, you are extremely close to to the target, to the point where you could even circle around them. Um, this is going to be like your melee range. And so anything close range will be close enough to touch, pretty much. Then moving backwards, we have medium range. You're able to clearly identify the target, and you can see at this range. You are squaring off maybe 10, 20 feet. You can see the details on the creature or other mech or whatever it is. Long range. You're able to see a rough outline of the target at this range, but you would need a scope in order to actually get the details. This is going to be kind of your sniper range, your I believe it's the missile shells range. Anything that it's at a far distance, you can see it's there, but you're not going to get clear details until you use some sort of magnification. And then far range. This range represents a loose point towards the horizon. You're able to see a small silhouette of your target, but you would need a scope to see more detail. There are some weapons that can shoot at far range, but they're few and far between. Um, just know far range is kind of like almost at a hypothetical range where you just know the general the general direction of something. But yes, when you're moving, you can move one range band to your target. So if you are at about medium range, or let's say if you're at a long range compared to your target, in your turn, you can move from long range to medium range. And this is a side note, any weapon that has a medium range or a long range can operate, or at least can target successfully, any range band that within that range band. So if you have a long range weapon, you can also target something at medium range or close range with that long range weapon. Makes sense. So, just to sum up here, a creature, a mech, pilot, whatever, can move one range band. And that's it's going to be kind of you are kind of tethering that to whatever target you're going towards, but nonetheless, that's it. That's it in a basic nutshell. Now, when it comes to actions, there are six types of actions in Salvage Union. I apologize. I'm feeling sick, so I don't know if you can hear how congested I am, but I'm going to get through this. Turn actions. A turn action represents a period of time of about a minute that can be performed during your turn. This is going to be just your basic turns. You are firing a weapon. You are um, doing melee combat. You are activating certain types of modules or programs. Now, if you look at the certain systems or modules, you will see a type of turn they are. Some are turn actions, some are free actions, some are reactions. And so you'll want to make sure that you're doing it correctly. But this is pretty much just the typical you are doing an action, and this usually comes with a dice roll, which we'll come into later. A free action is going to be anything that is done that doesn't necessarily take too much time, or can be done at the same time that you're during your turn action, like talking with other players or dropping a held item. I believe even actually, I believe the getting into a mech takes a turn action. But it's going to be just like little things like drinking a health potion. But a free action is going to be pretty much just anything that can be done either at the same time or it really doesn't need its own section to be included. Free actions you can do as many as you want within a reason. Don't get crazy with it. But if you want to just kind of add flavor or have discussions or just kind of add extra things that make it feel more real, you're welcome to do that. Reactions can happen in less than 10 seconds. And there's many systems or modules that allow you to use reactions. And what's even interesting is that these can be done even if it's not on your turn, which I think is really, really helpful. If you have certain systems and modules that can kick in, even if your buddy is going at the same time. Then we have short and long actions. A short action is typically 10 minutes, and a long action is typically 1 hour. But various kind of actions or various tasks require either a short action or a long action. It's important to kind of know the time frame that those are operating in. And then finally, we have downtime actions. This happens while you are on the Union crawler. And so the rest of the things you might see, like while you're deployed, while you're out there in your mech, in the heat of combat, downtime actions are done strictly on the Union crawler, and these usually take who knows how long. It's your downtime. Now, that kind of covers over the what you can do on a turn. You can do a movement or an action, but let's say you want to do an action. How do you resolve that? So these are where the if then statements come in. I'll kind of show you how it works. So making an action. If you want to do an action, then you roll a 20-sided dice and use the results table as a reference. The only dice you will be rolling in this entire game, and I can say that with moderate confidence, you roll a 20-sided dice. When you roll that dice, you compare that to the core mechanic table. If you roll a 20, a natural 20 is always a good sign you nailed it, and you succeed with flying colors. And usually you even get like an appreciation bonus, an appropriate bonus, or something kind of added on to what you were looking for. 11 and 19 is going to be a success. You achieved your goal. A 6 out of 10 is going to be a tough choice, meaning that you get what you want, but it comes at a cost. And usually the mediator will come up with some sort of tough choice for you to for you to decide on. A failure, it's a typical, it doesn't work, and you probably receive a setback. And of course, a natural one is a cascade failure, meaning that something's wrong, and usually that comes with significant setbacks like a piece breaking, a limb breaking, maybe. But there's ultimately something just is monumentally wrong. Now you have two different options at this point. If you rolled that d20 and you're satisfied, if you are satisfied with your result and have no method of altering your fate, then the game mediator resolves the action. Pretty much you move on with gameplay, you take the consequence, and kind of go forth from there. However, if you are not satisfied with your role and you have methods of altering your fate, this is where it kind of gets a little interesting. Then you have various methods of reroll, which some we've actually even covered, such as doing an action that aligns with your keepsake or backstory. If you did one of those actions and you have it available, you haven't used it within a downtime, um, then you can ultimately re-roll a dice, which you can do once between downtimes, if that makes sense. Or if your ally tells you their motto, then you can re-roll as well. But things get a little bit more hairy when you are in a mech, or hairy as in you have more options. You can choose to push your mech at the cost of 2 heat. And when you push your mech, you can re-roll the dice, but you must roll a heat check afterwards. Now, an important thing here, the push procedure, when you roll the dice, and you decide to re-roll the dice by pushing, you accept the result of the second roll. You can't choose between the two. And the active and whatever happens resolves right then and there. Only after that do you increase your heat by 2 and roll on the heat check and roll your heat check. A heat check is going to be rolling a d20, and if you roll um, equal to or lower than your current heat marker or what your current heat amount is on your mech, that is considered a fail. So, for example, if you push your mech and your mech gets at a 2, you already had 2 heat before, meaning you have a total of 4, a 4 heat. and you roll a d20 and you get a 7, that is considered a success and nothing happens. However, if you roll a 3 or a 4 or a 1, then you ultimately have to roll a heat check, which means that you'll be rolling on the reactor overload table. Now, this one is really interesting because after you do your heat, if you're rolling on the reactor overload table, of course, a natural 20, your reactor goes into overdrive and you take little to no, you actually get bonuses, meaning that you can take an additional push within the next 10 minutes for free, meaning you don't have to do any of this, but it only goes downhill from there. 11 and 19, you overheat and your mech shuts down, which is terrible. A module overload, meaning that one of your modules chosen at random or by the mediator is destroyed. A system overload, meaning that the same thing, just systems are usually worse. And a number, if you roll a 1 on the reactor overload overload table, you can kiss your mech goodbye because it melts down and explodes. If you have an escape hatch, it means that you get to dodge. You get to at least escape without dying. Anything in close range to your mech will receive damage unless it chooses to run away or it uses a reaction to get out. But your mech explodes, and the place that it actually explodes becomes irradiated. Irradiated, yeah. So that's bad news. But that ultimately is how you um, how you take an action, and every single time you're going to be rolling this d20 from the core mechanic table. Ultimately, the rules state that really only one roll should happen per decision. You shouldn't have to keep on rolling just to kind of um, if you roll on the core mechanic table to convince somebody of something and you have to continually roll to like keep up a facade, that shouldn't your game mediator should not be having you re-roll for the same action, if that makes sense. But of course that comes down to a table specific, game mediator specific. You want to make sure you're discussing that with your table. A third piece to this puzzle is going to be dealing and taking damage. To deal damage, first you're going to select a target within range of your weapon. That can be anything from the maximum range band that the weapon describes, inward or closer, I guess. Next, you roll on the core mechanic table, which of course we just went over this. The core mechanic table is the same one here. It's you roll there, it's a tough choice failure, such to that nature. And this is where you can either push your mech to make decisions, re-roll using the your other backstory or things of that nature. But if you are but this this is where it gets a little interesting. This is where it gets a little fun. If you are within close range of a target that has 0 structure points or 0 health points, then you can do what's considered a death blow, which is a un. I'm trying to let me let me pull up the rules here just so I can go over the death blow here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Activating my death blow. When in close range of a target on 0 structure points or 0 health points, you can do what's known as a death blow. This automatically succeeds and destroys or kills the target entirely. When making a death blow, it is encouraged to describe the blow in as much visceral detail as your table is comfortable with. This is the executioner shot here. And so if you are within range of anything that is 0 structure points or 0 health points, you can perform a death blow. Speaking of death blows, let's talk about to take damage. Oh, I forgot my if there. Oh, I'm in read only mode. It doesn't matter. So, if you are wounded by an attack, you're going to reduce your structure points or health points by the damage dealt. If you're wounded by an improvised damage, then you will take 2 health point damage or 2 structure point damage, depending if you are just your pilot or in your mech, unless the game mediator says otherwise. Ultimately, it's kind of up to him, it's up to them. I'm not going to gender the game mediator. It's up to them to decide what the consequences are for certain improvised damage, like falling from a cliff or getting struck by rubble from a falling building. But the typical, or at least the default damage, will be 2 HP or 2 SP. But if your HP or SP is reduced to 0, if you're in a mech, you roll on the critical damage table. This is a quick little snippet of the critical damage. Natural 20, of course, is a miraculous survival. You somehow you somehow make it out, a number one is going to be a catastrophic damage, meaning that um, your everything within the mech is destroyed. And look, if the pilot dies, if they do not have a means to escape the mech, another plug for getting an escape hatch. If you are a pilot and you're at 0 HP, you roll on the critical injury table, which ranges anywhere from 20 of miraculous survival or a 1 fatal injury where your pilot unfortunately dies. Um, this is this is not good. You should not be on the critical injury table, but of course that's what it is there for. And so that is dealing and taking damage. Now the final thing that I kind of want to get into, which this it's more for like a your knowledge type of information rather than thing that you really should commit to memory because of course the game mediator will provide the information for you at the time. But it's going to be the group initiative table. Now, when it comes to group initiative, the rules get a little bit flexible, just kind of on who goes first and who attacks when. Now, ultimately, if it's obvious in a situation who initiates the combat or how the combat plays out, the mediator will be taking over and kind of guiding the group in the order of operations. But if there is any kind of like room for speculation, or if the pilots are the ones kind of initiating combat, a pilot one of the pilots in the group can roll on the group initiative table. And this roll can be pushed, just like in a mech or with your various reroll types. Now, when they roll on the table, obviously you can see the table in front of me. A 20 is going to be two pilots chosen by the players, gets to act first, and then it passes the NPC group. Number one is going to be that pretty much two NPCs are chosen by the mediator to act first. And there's various kind of there's everything between on the spectrum between the 20 and the 1. Ultimately, what happens is that the combat gets passed between players and NPCs, depending on who starts first. After whoever goes first, it switches to the other team. So, for example, if somebody rolls a 19, meaning that they follow the quick draw rules underneath the group initiative table, one pilot is chosen by the players and they act first. After that, an NPC goes, chosen by the mediator. After the NPC goes, then another player goes, chosen by the group of players. Um, and then once they go, and then an NPC is chosen by the mediators. This goes back and forth until everyone gets resolved, and no one person can go twice in a round, which means that just everyone gets to go. And if there is a situation where there is more players or more NPCs, uh, and it kind of it isn't like a clean match between the two groups. Like there's alternating there's different numbers or different sizes of groups. They'll go back and forth until everyone on one side has gone, and then the rest of the other side will just kind of filter out. That was a little bit hard of an explanation, but say there are three players and there are five NPCs. A player goes first, an NPC follows, the player two goes, the NPC 2 follows, player 3 goes, NPC 3 follows, and then NPC 4, NPC 5 go. And then it's back to the top of the round. And at the beginning of every round, the initiative table is rolled again. That way, it can kind of alter how gameplay is set up. So that is all information that should kind of be handled by the game mediator if you're playing. But just so you are aware that you're not blindsided by kind of how it's different than if you've played other systems. I want to make sure that you're aware of it. But that, in a nutshell, is all of the core gameplay mechanics. And so that's really that's really it. And so that means we are officially done with the four-part series of Let's Play Something New, Salvage Union. We have created a pilot. We have created a mech. We have created the Union Crawler. We have even dived into some of the core gameplay, and you even know what to do on your turn, how to take damage, how to deal damage, and the various actions that you could do on your turn, which means that I'd say, according to my humble opinion, you are ready to at least sit down for the very first session of Salvage Union, and hopefully this will kind of just at least get you to the table, allow you to feel confident within that first couple of hours, um, long enough for the game mediator who you're playing with to fill in the knowledge gaps, provide extra information and clarification, as well as just run a good, fun session that doesn't have to be bogged down by players who are unsure what their actions are, while game masters are fuddling between the game rules trying to provide kind of easy explanations. So, um, it is officially done. This is the fourth episode, and we are good to go. Now, if you want to play Salvage Union but you do not have a game mediator to facilitate the game, check out my profile on startplaying.games where I run Salvage Union games, and the link will be in the description below. Make sure to tune in to Tether by the Table's live streams to watch our long running campaign on Twitch. And I hope you have a really fun time playing your very first game of Salvage Union. You got to tell me how it goes in the comments below because I'm really, really interested to see just kind of the different adventures that you guys are having. So, thank you so much for tuning into this Salvage Union 4-part series, and I'll see you next time.